Today I'd like to talk about Social Security. This program started off with the best intentions, but as time passed, it failed to keep up with our ever-changing nation. I'd like to start off with its history because, as we all know, you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. Franklin Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act in 1935. The program provided a social insurance system based on the idea that if the worker pooled a portion of their wages, they would be able to protect each other as well as their families against wage loss due to retirement. Although benefits were initially restricted to workers aged 65 and older, the program expanded over time and is now known as the Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance Program. In 1939, benefits were introduced for spouses, minor children of retired workers, and for families of workers who died prematurely. In 1956, the benefits for disabled workers were added, and the minimum age at which workers became eligible for old age insurance payments was lowered to 62. About 59 million people received Social Security benefits at the end of 2014. Social Security benefits were initially intended to supplement pensions and private savings for retirees. However, Social Security payments have become the primary retirement plan for many Americans. By 2014, 22% of married retirees and about 47% of unmarried retirees relied on Social Security for at least 90% of their income. According to the 2015 annual report of the Social Security Board of Trustees, the cost of Social Security benefits will exceed tax revenues beginning in 2020, and the program will be unable to pay beneficiaries in full as reserves become exhausted by 2034. In 2034, Social Security is projected to have enough tax revenue to pay 79% of benefits owed. The trustees predict a budget shortfall of $10.7 trillion through 2089. Many people well under the retirement age may be asking themselves, how do we solve this problem? One proposal to help solve this problem is replacing the current system with a partial privatization of Social Security. This will allow workers to manage their own retirement funds through personal investment accounts. Individuals for privatization say that workers deserve the right to control their own retirement accounts. Another reason in favor of privatizing Social Security are the higher rates of return. The annual growth rate for private investments currently averages 6.38% over the last 20 years, while Social Security participants over the same period saw a dismal 2.67 growth rate. Privatizing Social Security, though radical in concept, is not a new notion. Martin Feldstein, chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors during the Reagan presidency, is one that is in favor of private Social Security accounts. He stated, privatizing Social Security will put more money in the pockets of retirees. He wrote that someone with an annual salary of $50,000 during their working years with a private account earning a modest 5.5% rate of return could accumulate enough to fund an annual payout of about $22,000 after the age of 67, essentially doubling the current Social Security benefit. Privatization can also reduce the government workforce, red tape, and wasteful spending. The Social Security Administration currently employs almost 60,000 people at more than 1,400 offices across the country, with an operating budget of $12.5 billion. If retirement benefits were managed by private companies, government bureaucracy could be greatly reduced. Creating private accounts also stops Congress from raiding the Social Security cookie jar. In the past, budget surpluses in Social Security were used by the federal government to fund other government spending, including the purchase of treasury bonds to offset budget deficits. Money kept in private accounts is under each individual's beneficiary control, so it cannot be diverted for non-retirement purposes. Private accounts would also allow benefits to be inherited. The present system is inequitable because people who live shorter lives collect less, of their earned benefits, and yet those benefits cannot be transferred to family members. Personal accounts would provide the option to transfer assets to heirs upon death. All this sounds nice, but does it actually work? There was one country brave enough to try this very thing, Chile. Prior to 1981, their system was similar to our own and was clearly in grave financial trouble. Instead of buying the program in another few years, Chile allowed workers to choose whether they wanted to stay in the current system or to put their whole payroll tax into an individual retirement account. The system still required contributions of 10%, but the money was deposited in any one of an array of private investment companies. Upon retirement, the worker had a number of options, including purchasing an annuity for life. Along the way, citizens could track the performance of their account and increase contributions up to 20% if they wanted to retire earlier or increase payouts. How well has the system performed? John Tierney, a writer for the New York Times, went to visit Pablo Sierra, a former classmate and friend. They compared notes on how well their retirement programs were doing. It turned out that they had both been contributing about the same amount of money, so the comparison was apt and startling. Pablo could retire in 10 years at the age of 62 with an annual pension of $55,000. That would be more than triple the $18,000 John would expect from Social Security at that age. Pablo could also retire at the age of 65 with an annual pension of $70,000. According to Investor's Business Daily, the average annual rate of return for Chilean workers over the last 30 years has exceeded 9%, whereas Social Security pays 1 to 2%. Their privatized national pension plan has also encouraged domestic investment and contributed to an estimated total domestic savings rate of approximately 20% of GDP. Now, the only question is, why not attempt to revamp a system that is clearly broken? Not only do we know about the deficit shortfalls to come, but we can also see the greater dependency retirees have for this program. To continue to do the same thing and expect a different outcome will only create a bigger problem.